Alright, viewers, as you've already seen from this opening montage, imagine starting your day with a plate of soft, steaming, hot idli only to realize that with every single bite, you could be ingesting cancer-causing chemicals. Well, it sounds shocking, but let me tell you the story today, and it will turn out to be one of the most shocking stories that you've heard in a while. In Karnataka, samples were collected from 251 locations, and this of course was by the government of Karnataka, but the Food Safety Department. It was then found that 52 of these samples had been using plastic sheets to steam idlis. Yes, instead of the traditional cloth that we see being used to steam idlis, these places were using plastic sheets. Some eateries have been cutting corners using polythene sheets, which is a material which is known to release harmful toxins when exposed to heat. Viewers, this is carcinogenic, which means that it can cause cancer. This is exactly what the Health Minister of Karnataka also has today warned about. The state's Health Minister, Dinesh Gundu Rao, has now sounded the alarm, warning that this practice could be putting thousands of people who have idli every single morning for breakfast at risk. So the big question on the show, what else are we unknowingly consuming today? How deep does this food safety crisis run? And this issue, viewers, isn't just limited to Karnataka. Idli is consumed across India. So the bigger question on the show today is that who's responsible? What's the government doing, and how safe is the food on our plate? Shortly, we'll be speaking to the experts, trying to understand what's going on and also what's the best tip for you as a consumer to stay safe. But before that, let's take a look at this ground report.
ಇಲಾಖೆಯವರು ರಾಜ್ಯಾದ್ಯಂತ ಸುಮಾರು 251 ಕಡೆ ಸ್ಯಾಂಪಲ್ಗಳನ್ನು ತೆಗೆದು ಈ ತಪಾಸಣೆ ಮತ್ತು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಇಡ್ಲಿಯನ್ನ ಏನು ಬೇಯಿಸ್ತಾರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಹಿಂದೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿ ಮಾಡೋರು. ಆದರೆ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಕಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಕೂಡ ಇತ್ತು. ಆ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಲಾಖೆಯವರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಇದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ವಿಚಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ 251 ಏನು ಅವರು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸ್ಥಳಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು 52 ಕಡೆ ಈ ತರದ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಅನ್ನು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಬೇಯಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇದು ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿಯೂ ಇದು ಅವರು ಮಾಡಬಾರದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸರ್ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅಂಶಗಳಿರುವಂತದ್ದಿದೆ. ಅದು ಇಡ್ಲಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತದ್ದಾಗ್ತದೆ.
This is the famous idli of the city, but right now the latest investigation by the health department has sparked off some serious health concerns about how idli is made in the city of Banglore. There were about 251 different samples that were collected from different parts of the state, and here they have found about 52 samples where found to be, laced with plastic. That means in the process of making idli, many of the restaurants, instead of using the traditional cloth, are using plastic. Now, I'm at a restaurant in Bangalore, and here I have the owner with me. And he's going to show us what sort of technique is used here. Here he tells me that for many years they've been using the traditional cloth and not plastic, which would be harmful to their customers. Sir, आप बता सकते हैं कि इडली कितने साल से आप अपने रेस्टोरेंट से बना रहे हैं और कौन सा प्रोसेस यूज करते हैं?
25 ईयर से हम लोग इडली बना रहे हैं. हम लोग कपड़ा यूज करके इडली बना रहे हैं.
आप दिखा सकते हैं कि ये जो है इडली स्टीमर है. सो दीज आर द इडली स्टीमर. आप ओपन करके दिखाइए हमें कैसा.
ये इडली है, रवा इडली है. ये मामूली इडली है. इसमें हम लोग क्लॉथ ही डाल के बनाते हैं.
ना और आप बता सकते हैं कि क्या क्या रिस्क हो सकता है और क्या प्लास्टिक यूज करते हैं अपने रेस्टोरेंट?
नहीं, प्लास्टिक नहीं यूज करते. ये हम लोग कपड़ा से नहीं तो ये यूज करते हैं, पत्ता यूज करते हैं. बनाना पत्ता, बनाना का पत्ता यूज करते हैं. प्लास्टिक यूज किया तो क्या थोड़ा अभी का कैंसर का प्रॉब्लम और सबका प्रॉब्लम अभी बोल रहे हैं.
If we consume the plastic, the body will get affected with the help of plastic itself, right? Without that, if they use cloth, it's better to make sure we use cloth while doing idlis.
Yeah. And you often consume idlis in the city, and when reports like this come out, information like this come out, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I am really worried. I've never heard anybody using plastic. I've always seen the cloth being used traditionally. So I don't know. So if it is, then I have to look for anywhere like when they are picking up the idli from the steam, I have to look for it's a cloth or it's plastic.
You want to check from now?
Yeah, because it's alarming.
Alright, so there you saw it. That was the ground report, viewers, about the way idli is made. And normally, on a normal day, if I had seen those visuals, my mouth would be watering. But looking at the story today, I don't have the heart to even think about having an idli right now. But to discuss more on this, joining us right now, GR Pradeep, Chairman and MD of the GRP Hotels India Private Limited, also South Ritchie Square, Dr. Niti Raizada, Principal Director, Medical Oncology and Hemato Oncology Fortis Group of Hospitals, and also joining us is Ritika Sharma, Nutrition Consultant. Everyone, to all our guests here, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Pradeep, I'll start with you now. You've been in the food business for many decades, as I know. Have you ever used plastic? When does this entire innovation come about? When did people realize that instead of using cloth, let's start using plastic? And again, is this a common practice now?
Good evening. These all it's our hoteliers' responsibility to not use plastics, and a lot of things are there because there is a kind of HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point, which has to be maintained in a restaurant. What happening nowadays is the lack of knowledge. If we use the plastics, well, how it affects on the people's health, which the people doesn't know. Those people only after 90s, which the plastic innovation has come, they're using for everything nowadays. That should be avoided. The government officials and government should take strict action on this. The people who are using these plastics for cooking and Teflon coated plates, sheets, which is using for any cooking in the kitchen, and the plates or whatever spoons which is using for the in the restaurants, the plastics, that should be avoided because which causes cancer. It is a task on our customers' health.
Mr. Pradeep,
that should not be
a quick follow-up question there. At your hotels, you have a chain of hotels. At your hotels, you use plastic sheets or do you use cloth?
No. We use only cloth because we are second generation in this industry. We are here from past 70 years. We are doing restaurant from my father's days. We use only the cotton cloths. That should also, we have to change within a week. We have to bring a new cloth. And every day we have to wash it and dry it.
That's a good practice, Mr. Pradeep.
Yes.
And the quick question here, the problem here is that, Dr. Niti Raizada, I want you to come in on this. The problem here is that a lot of people who consume food now, we cannot sit here and peek inside what's happening inside the kitchen. Nor will the hotel manager allow us to look into the kitchen and, let us see what's really happening. So we don't know what's happening inside the kitchen, whether it's a cloth, whether it's a plastic sheet. So at the end of the day, Dr. Niti, a lot of people watching today would be wondering, what's this link between cooking idlis, using plastic sheet or using a cloth? How is it risky when a plastic sheet is used, and how does this cause cancer? For a layman watching today, if you could just break it down and help us understand in a simple manner.
So what happens, Ashish, is that repeated heating or using plastic causes chemical leaching. And this chemical leaching releases microplastics and nanoplastics. They are tiny, tiny particles which get in our food chain. And this food chain, if it is exposed for a long time, can cause cancer. When we look at the plastic and the IARC classification, IARC is International Agency of Research for Cancer. It categorizes cancer-producing agent, carcinogen. So plastic is called as a 2A agent, and we know about it for a very long time. I mean, it's not a recent phenomena. We know about it for a very long time. But what is very important is the length of exposure. Constant heating and constant contact over a period of time causes cancer. Now, what can we do to prevent it is anybody's, best guess. But yes, as we have to be conscious providers, we have to be conscious consumers as well. And we have to find the right place where we can avoid these.
Absolutely. In fact, Ritika Sharma is a nutrition consultant who is joining us right now. Ritika ji, there are multiple countries like, for example, Taiwan and South Korea that I know of, which have a rule in place to ensure that hot food items are not handled in plastic containers or anything that has to do with plastic. Does India have any such norm or a regulation? And if not, is it high time that we actually start looking at it?
As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any such regulation, or if even there is a regulation, people are not actually following, because if we see, we order from, these all
Absolutely.
food apps, and we get the food in plastic itself, and now it has black plastic, opaque plastic, and then you get transparent plastic. So even if there is a regulation, people are not following that. And as a consumer, I am a nutritionist, so I have that knowledge, I have that sense of, keeping myself safe and my family safe. But as a consumer, people should also be, knowledgeable and very in for all these things. They should actually look at these things, and then going forward, they also should complain about this or make this come forward.
Okay. And Mr. Pradeep, coming back to you now, again, we've seen in the past as well, the Karnataka government in particular had passed an order about not using coloring agents, for example, in items like gobi manchuri or any Chinese item. But the reality is, even today, people continue to use it. There is no strict regulation, there is no checking that happens, and people continue to consume it. So the big question is about implementation. But on the other hand, talking of idlis now, why do you think these people use plastic sheets instead of cloth? What's the advantage of using a plastic sheet? Are people not educated, or are they educated but they're trying to maximize their profits? What's happening?
No, you see, it is lack of education, first thing, for using the plastic. And second thing is, it is easy for them to dispose the plastic sheets. If they use the cloths, again they have to wash it, dry it, and they have to use it again and again. No, using the plastic it is a use and throw kind of thing. The people, it is easy way to use that. That is why they are using. I don't think they save much money on that. But lack of knowledge, it's taking task on the people's health. But the government is insisting in Karnataka very strictly not to use any plastics for the parcels also. In any hotels they are not using the coloring agent.
Mr. Pradeep, sorry to interrupt, but the reality is, no matter what the government says, like for example, you might have noticed, I mean, you're in the food business, you said you've been around for decades now. The reality is, even today, people prefer having a chai or a tea in a plastic cup. I mean, you know the harm, but you still continue to do it. And a lot of hotels, I've personally seen this, when they make pulao or a biryani, the inner part of the vessel is also lined up with plastic cover so that it doesn't stick. And these are all common practices that happens across the nation. So the reality is that regardless of what the government says, these sort of practices are so ingrained that people will continue to do it until you actually start putting them in jail.
Yes. See, this all happened. What I said before, see, after 90s, this is the easy availability of plastic containers and the plastic utensils. The people are used to it now. We see that has to be banned. The production itself has to ban. In previous days, before 90s, people were getting their utensils to the hotel to take the parcel, the items and all. Nowadays, what happened now, it is easy for them to carry the food. They use the plastic containers or plastic sheets.
But Mr. Pradeep, I don't think anyone who's watching the show today will actually go around carrying their lunchbox. I mean, I understand it was a thing before the 90s, but it's not convenient. If I'm coming to office, I don't want to carry 3 tiffins to ensure that whenever I go to a hotel, I actually get it packed in a tiffin. But again, an alternative is what we need to seek. Dr. Niti, right, let me get in Dr. Niti here. Dr. Niti, is there an alternative to this? For example, any sort of a food grade plastic can be used? And also when we say cancer, what sort of cancer can this trigger? The use of plastic sheets during cooking idlis?
Continuous exposure can cause several types of cancers, including gastric cancer, liver cancer. So GI cancer, gut-related cancers is what it can cause. And what is very important is the length of exposure. Not one single exposure, but the length of exposure. So as I said, we have to be conscious, and I must appreciate Karnataka government efforts. So whatever it is, at least the extent of use has come down. And we should appreciate the efforts of Dinesh Gundu Rao, Honorable Health Minister, for at least taking the initiative. I mean, all of us must be using it, as you rightly mentioned. And what is very important is probably stricter regulations, probably stricter behavior and also conscious behavior on all of us part. This is a very important talk we are doing today. So we should probably create more awareness campaigns, which probably will take it higher and further.
Correct. Absolutely. Awareness is the right word. And in fact, Ritika Sharma, speaking of plastics now, the interesting part is that this is just visible plastic that people are getting appalled about. The reality is that microplastics also are similarly dangerous, and everything we order, for example, the milk sachet in the morning, the bread that we order, it's all in a plastic wrap. And then you order food via Swiggy, Zomato, whatever food delivery app, everything comes in plastic. So the reality is that we are surrounded by plastic. The answer, the solution that the people now today will be asking you is that what's the alternative? What do we do? Because convenience is what makes us use plastic. So if you're not using plastic, what's the other option?
See, as far as you just mentioned that it is very difficult to take a packed lunch, but nothing is beyond your health. So even if it takes a 5-minute extra effort to, pack a lunch for yourself and then take it to your office, it doesn't make any difference. Your health is your priority. And as far as choosing alternatives other than plastic, you have multiple alternatives. Now you have vessels made out of, clay. You have vessels made out of biodegradable substances, poly bags made of biodegradable substances. So all these things are the alternatives. But then again, I would say that your health is your priority and nothing comes beyond it.
Absolutely. Dr. Niti, any tips that you have for people watching right now? Because the reality is that while I might ensure that the way I'm consuming, there's no plastic around, I'm not sure what's happening inside the kitchen. Like I told Mr. Pradeep, he's telling me he uses plastic sheets and cloths. I mean, I'm going to go by his word. But the reality is most of these restaurants that you go, hotels that you go to, don't really care about the brand that much. They just want to earn profits. So you don't know what's happening inside the kitchen. So, for example, when I am consuming something as a consumer, what's the precautionary method that I can use to ensure that at least I am safe from my side? Or do you think it's beyond repair? It's the kitchen, it's the hotel that actually has to ensure that there is some sort of a safety?
Yeah, at the delivery level, we have to make sure we go to the right place, we use the right vendors, and of course, healthy lifestyle, including homemade, freshly cooked food. That remains the key. So we'll have to make a lot of changes in our lifestyle. Obviously, all processed food may have certain level of chemicals which can be carcinogenic. They may use certain packing material which may be carcinogenic. So wherever we can kind of safely get away from it, but at the same time, trying to use something which is homemade or probably in a reliable vendor. That's all we can kind of take it from.
Okay. And again, talking of alternatives now, the reality is we can sit here and give sermons to all of viewers watching that don't use plastic, it's not good for your health, use an alternative. But the reality is there a viable alternative? Mr. Pradeep, you've been in the industry for a while. You say that you avoid plastic as much as possible. Is there a good alternative to plastic in the market? And if there is, why are hotels not using it? Is it very costly?
Sir, for cooking, no need of any plastics. And for takeaway, the people can opt for their home utensils to bring to the hotel and take away the food. That can be done because carrying from the hotel, that also the same thing it will happen. And once they consume the food, they throw that plastic to the dustbins. Again, it is a problem for the nature. That is why the people should carry their utensils from the home and they have to take away the food to their home in their container only. That is the best option. Other than that, there is no other option. See, in the COVID times, the people were using the areca nut plates. For that also, the news has come that in that fungus will be there and other things will be there. Because, see, in anything, it is a food, it is a consumable. It should maintain, it should be very cooked in a very clean area, and the person who cooks he should be also have
But
personal
Mr.
hygiene,
Pradeep,
and he should
the reality
maintain
is that a lot of hotels
Yes.
only care about the profit margin. They don't care what's really happening to the consumer. They just want to ensure that, all right, there is nothing in the food except for the food that's been ordered. The food is clean. No matter how you cook it, no matter how you serve it, they don't care. That's the reality of, the food market in India, the restaurant market in India. The problem is, what's the alternative? How do you encourage these businesses, these restaurants to ensure that customer health is also put on priority?
See, it is the people's conscientiousness, the hotel owner's conscientiousness should be perfect, and he should have the passion towards that. And our health and the customer's health are both are same. And he should know the hazard analysis critical control point. That is HACCP, which in Kannada we call it as our grandmother and mother as a muddy in their kitchen. They have to maintain that. There, they should not. They should come with a clean bath and the fresh uniforms, and they have to use head caps and gloves and mask, everything. They have to maintain that. And the utensils should be washed before cooking, and they should not use bare hands or plastics or anything there. Which can, see, this is a small practice. This is the responsibility of a restaurant owner. That can be done there is a very small practice which we can bring in our staff also. It is a small thing, is a monitoring, I can say, that's it. This can be done. And only where the plastic is the troubling the people is in takeaway containers. That should be avoided only by the customers.
That's true.
They have to bring their own utensils, and they have to take the food in their utensils, and they have to use their utensils. That is the best way to avoid plastic, sir.
All right. I'm being told just a couple of minutes left on the broadcast. Yes. Ritika ji, final concluding remarks from your end. Again, let's talk about the tips that you have for the viewers watching today. What can they do? Because at the end of the day, like Mr. Pradeep said, it's the conscience of the hotel owner, how he makes it. But the reality is, I don't know how his conscience is. I go there looking at the menu. There is no menu listing for his conscience. So as a customer, what's my option? What do I do?
There are customer responsibility and duties as well. So government can not only do all the things. It is the customer duty as well to check the food, to check the label, to check the place where they are going, to ask for the utensils that they are using. As a consumer, I have the right to ask, and as a distributor, they have the right to tell me. So that is the responsibility that as a consumer, I should be performing. And then again, my health is my priority. No one else will take care of you. So you have to take care of your health on your own.
Absolutely. Ritika ji, I'm not sure about anyone else here on the panel. The next time I am having idli at any hotel, I'm first going to look at their container, ensure it's a cloth that they're using, because I don't know whose conscience is how, what the other person is thinking, how much profit that person is trying to generate. Because at the end of the day, because idli, especially all our viewers watching in South India might know this, it's a major breakfast item. Crores of people eat it every single day for breakfast. And if this report by the Karnataka government is true, it's a very alarming issue that can actually escalate into a public crisis, public health crisis. And to everyone on the panel, G.R. Pradeep, Dr. Niti Raizada, Ritika Sharma, appreciate you joining us on the broadcast, discussing this very interesting and very insightful topic and giving us your expertise as well. And viewers, on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Mirror Prime. Lots more lined up on the other side. Stay tuned.